Recording. Okay, started. Hare Krishna, we are so fortunate to have His Grace Raghunandan Prabhu from Virginia, and Prabhuji will enlighten us on Srimad Bhagvatam 13.1 chapter, canto, shloka and onwards. So today we are starting new chapter, so please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurmulitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today's verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 13. It's starting from verse 1. So maybe I can share my screen and show the...
Just a minute, I will give you the sharing also.
Thank you. Shloka 1. Sri Narada Uvacha Kalpastvevam Parivrajya Deha Matra Vaseshitaha Gramaikaraatra Vidina Nirapekshascharen Mahim. Sri Narada Uvacha. Sri Narada Muni said, Kalpaha, a person who is competent to undergo the austerities of sannyas, the renounced order of life, or to prosecute studies in transcendental knowledge. 2. But, evam, in this way, as described previously, Parivrajya, fully understanding his spiritual identity and thus traveling from one place to another. Deha matra, keeping only the body. Avaseshitaha, at last. Grama, in a village. Eka, one only. Ratra, of passing a night. Vidina, in the process. Nirapekshaha, without dependence on any material thing. Charet, should move from one place to another. Mahim, on the earth. Translation. Sri Narada Muni said, a person able to cultivate spiritual knowledge should renounce all material connections, and merely keeping the body inhabitable, he should travel from one place to another, passing only one night in each village. In this way, without dependence in regard to the needs of the body, the sannyasi should travel all over the world. And there are no purports, but one word that we can pay attention to is nirapekshaha, without dependence on any material thing. We will read few more verses and then when we are discussing, we'll talk about this nirapekshaha, without dependence on any material thing, because that's a very important principle, not only for a sannyasi, but for every practitioner of bhakti. बिभ्रियाद् यद्यसौ वासः कौपिना अच्छदानं परं त्यक्तं न लिङ्गात् दण्डादेर् अन्यत् किञ्चित् अनापदि. A person in the renounced order of life may try to avoid even a dress to cover himself. If he wears anything at all, it should be only a loincloth. And when there is no necessity, a sannyasi should not even accept a danda. A sannyasi should avoid carrying anything but a danda and kamandalu. एक एव चरेद् भिक्षुर् आत्मा रामो न पाश्रयः सर्वभूतसुहृत् शान्तो नारायणपरायणः. The sannyasi, completely satisfied in the self, should live on alms begged from door to door, not being dependent on any person or any place. He should always be a friendly well-wisher to all living beings and be a peaceful, unalloyed devotee of Narayana. In this way, he should move from one place to another. Again, this word, Narayana Parayanaha. That word comes in Srimad Bhagavatam in quite a few places, like Vasudeva Parayana in the earlier cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And here it is saying Narayana Parayana, becoming absolutely dependent on Narayana and becoming his devotee. That's what the word Narayana Parayana means. So Nirapeksha means not being dependent on material things, and Narayana Parayana means becoming absolutely dependent only on Narayan or Krishna. That is what is being talked about. So again, there is no purport to this verse. Shloka 4. Pashyedatman yado vishvam pare sad asato yaye atmanam cha param brahma sarvatra sad asanmaye. The sannyasi should always try to see the supreme pervading everything and see everything, including this universe, resting on the supreme. Again, no purport. Shloka 5. Supti prabodhayo sandhav atmano gatim atmadrik pashyan bandham cha moksham cha maya matram na vastutaha. Translation. During unconsciousness, and between the two, he should try to understand the self and be fully situated in the self. In this way, he should realize that the conditional and liberated stages of life are only illusory and not actually factual. With such a higher understanding, he should see only the absolute truth pervading everything. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The unconscious state is nothing but ignorance, darkness, or material existence. And in the conscious state, one is awake. The marginal state between consciousness and unconsciousness has no permanent existence. Therefore, one who is advanced in understanding the self should understand that unconsciousness and consciousness are but illusions, for they fundamentally do not exist. Only the supreme absolute truth exists, as confirmed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 4. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. By me, in my transcendent, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Everything exists on the basis of Krishna's impersonal feature. Nothing can exist without Krishna. Therefore, the advanced devotee of Krishna can see the Lord everywhere without illusion. So we will read the next verse and the purport, and then we can have some discussion. Text 6. नाभिनन्दे ध्रुवं मृत्युम् अध्रुवं वास्य जीवितं कालं परं प्रतीक्षेत भूतानां प्रभवाप्ययम्. Since the material body is sure to be vanquished and the duration of one's life is not fixed, neither death nor life is to be praised. Rather, one should observe the eternal time factor in which the living entity manifests himself and disappears. Purport. The living entities in the material world, not only at the present but also in the past, have been involved in trying to solve the problem of birth and death. Some stress death and point to the illusory existence of everything material, whereas others stress life, trying to preserve it perpetually and enjoy it to the best of their ability. Both of them are fools and rascals. It is advised that one observe the eternal time factor, which is the cause of the material body's appearance and disappearance, and that one observe the living entity's entanglement in this time factor. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore sings in his Gitavali, Anadi karma phale padi bhavararnava jale taribare na deki upaya. One should observe the activities of eternal time, which is the cause of birth and death. Before the creation of the present millennium, the living entities were under the influence of the time factor. And within the time factor, the material world comes into existence and is again annihilated. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. Being under the control of time factor, the living entities appear and die, life after life. This time factor is the impersonal representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives the living entities conditioned by material nature a chance to emerge from this nature by surrendering to Him. So, Narada Muni has been talking about the four varnas, and then he started with the Brahmachari and Vanaprastha ashram, and now he is talking about sannyas. So the question might come, I am not a sannyas. I am not aspiring to become a sannyasi. So how does this apply to me? Yeah, many of the points that are being made is exclusively for who is in the sannyas ashram. But there are some principles that are applicable for everybody. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, when Krishna starts talking about karma yoga, he makes a very important point, because what is Arjuna saying in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita? I am not going to do my duty. What is his duty? He is a Kshatriya. So he has to fight when there is a rightful cause to fight a war. He has to protect the citizens. So all these things are the duties of a Kshatriya. And here Arjuna is standing on the battlefield and he is saying, no, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to do my duty. I will put down my weapon, walk away from this battlefield, go to the forest and be a beggar. That is the exact word that Arjuna is using. I will just go and do that. I don't need to be engaged in this ghastly warfare to kill my grandfather Bhishma, my guru Drona, and my brothers and cousins and relatives and friends. And what happiness will I derive? Even the kingdom that I am getting back by winning this war, I will not have any of them to enjoy it with, so I don't want to fight this war. That is the reason and justification. He gives multiple reasons and justifications, and that's one of them. And he says, no, I am abstaining from doing my duty. And basically uses the word sannyas. I am refraining to do that action. So I will be inactive. So he chooses the path of inaction. So the justification is, if we do an action, there is a consequence. And if I am doing inaction, there won't be any consequence. Ha! So there is no sinful reactions. I have avoided sinful reactions just by my inaction. So I won't do my duty. So Krishna hears all these things, and at that time when he is speaking, Krishna has a slight smile on his lips, but he is quiet. In chapter 2, Arjuna finally surrenders to Krishna and says, you become my teacher, I will become your student. Kindly instruct me and dispel all my doubts and confusion. Only then Krishna starts speaking the spiritual knowledge. So before even he addresses this point about sannyas, renunciation, Krishna gives the basic understanding, fundamentals of spiritual knowledge. Who am I? So those are the things that were also brought up by Narada Muni in this conversation with Yudhishthira Maharaj, the chapters that we are reading now in Canto 7. So he explains that our true identity is, we are not this body, but we are spiritual living beings. And then when he is talking about Karma Yoga, then he brings up the point of sannyas. What is real renunciation? So Krishna says, you are talking sannyas, renouncing action, but you do not understand properly what is renouncing action. Then what are you talking about? You are talking like a learned man, but what comes out of your mouth doesn't sound to be learned. So hear me, Krishna says, what is actually renunciation? There are so many things in this material world, all of them are material things. And there are spiritual living beings, Atmas, and there is Paramatma. Besides these three, there is nothing in this material creation. So the living being is thinking, oh, everything is there for my pleasure and enjoyment. And all the other living beings that are there in this, they are also for my pleasure and enjoyment. That is the basis of material conception of life. It's me, mine, my enjoyment, my pleasure, my happiness, like that. And everything is existing just for my pleasure and enjoyment. So Krishna says real renunciation means to use all these things not for oneself, but for the pleasure and satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Krishna. That is real sannyas. So when we look at that principle, everything that is being talked about regarding sannyas ashram, we are not in the sannyas ashram, so there are some specific things the sannyasi should do that is not applicable to us. But when we look at the other main principle of what a sannyas really means, what true renunciation means, every activity that we do, Krishna is at the center, and it is for his pleasure and satisfaction. Okay, so then let's come to nirapekshaha, not being dependent on material things. What does it mean actually? We are blessed with intelligence, We are blessed with smartness. We are blessed with physical strength, endurance. So many of these qualities are there. And then we are also blessed with other resources, like we have our friends and family who provide strength and support for us. With them, we enjoy the comforts of this world. That was the point that Arjuna made in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. These are the people that I hang out with. These are the people that I enjoy my wealth with. So after killing them myself and getting back my kingdom, I will not have anybody to enjoy my kingdom with, is one of the reasons that Arjuna says in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. So all these things are there, and this is not the first lifetime that we are spending in this material world. We have to keep that in mind. We have spent millions and millions of births and lifetimes in this material world. And we think these are permanent things that we will be having. And we learn to use them. While using them, we get attached to them and we become dependent on them. And then say, oh, I have all these material things. And yeah, in this material world, things keep changing. Happiness comes, sufferings come, but I have my intelligence, and I have my strength, and I have my other material resources. I will depend on those material resources to overcome the situations and challenges in my life. Ha! Problem solved. Problems come, but I have material resources that I can depend upon to take care of these challenges and overcome those challenges and make my life normal and peaceful again. So the dependence is on the material things. In that conception of life, there is no conception of the Supreme Lord. That is the black and white difference between material life and a spiritual life. A material conception of life and a spiritual conception of life. Material conception of life, we are depending on our material resources and material strengths to overcome the challenges in life. But whereas the spiritual conception of life is Narayana Parayana, being completely dependent on the Supreme Lord, Krishna, or in his Narayan form. Vasudeva Parayana is the another term that is used, and Narayana Parayana, always dependent on the Supreme Lord. So what does it mean, being dependent on the Supreme Lord? First conception is all these resources that I have. The source of all these resources is the Supreme Lord Krishna. From him comes everything. From him comes my ability. From him comes my intelligence. From him comes my strength. Everything that I think that it's mine, including this material body, the source of all these things is the Supreme Lord. Many times we ignore that fact or forget that fact. Even this material body, it comes from his material energy, the Supreme Lord's material energy, that we have to remember. So this material body is given by him. The source of this material body is him. So it actually belongs to him. He has given it to us in this lifetime for us to use. But this body actually belongs to the Supreme Lord. And then the intelligence, my smartness, my strength, my this, my that, everything, all my abilities, everything, the source of all that is the Supreme Lord. It comes from him. So when everything belongs to him, how can I make a claim that all these things are mine? It has been temporarily loaned out to me. Say, suppose, for example, you are living right next to my home, so we are neighbors. You are going on a vacation for a month to India, and you give the keys to your home to me or keys to your car to me and say, please start it regularly once every week or something so that the battery doesn't die down. And then you go to your vacation and come back. I cannot claim that, oh, you gave the key to me, so that car belongs to me. You came back and I have to give that car back to you, the car key back to you. So, same thing. We have been given this material body and the senses and the intelligence, the mind, the abilities, all those things has been given for us to use, but it actually belongs to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So that is the one fundamental understanding. And secondly, what is we are talking about being dependent on Krishna. So what does it mean? Whenever we have something good happening in our life, we don't take credit for it. Oh, I did it, I achieved this result. Rather, we go and thank the Supreme Lord and say, thank you. Thank you for giving me this success in my life or giving this good thing in my life or whatever it is. Then we go and say thank you because you are the actual cause for that result. Because Krishna talks about that in Bhagavad Gita again. He says, Ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Out of ahankara, false ego, the living being thinks, I did it, I produced the results, I will claim proprietorship over the results. So Krishna calls not the Atma, not just Muda Atma. He says Vimuda Atma, highly stupid. Krishna says that's not an intelligent position to take because you are totally discounting the presence of the Supreme and through whom the results have been produced. Another example I will give. We start a business and there are two other partners with us in the business. And the business is going successfully and it's generating lots of profits. I'm claiming all the profits belong only to me and I exclude the two other business partners. That's not correct because the three are the partners and the three of them have equal stake in the profits that are being generated. The same thing is happening with the living being. It has two partners in every action. The material energy of the Supreme Lord, Prakriti or Maya, it is also known as, and then Paramatma, the Supreme Lord. So these three are needed for any action to be performed and a result to be produced. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita. So if the spirit soul is the living being is saying, oh, only I did the action, I produced the result, so I claim proprietorship over it. Krishna says that's ahankara vimudatma karta aham iti manyate. I did it. I only did it. I only produced the results. So that conception is incorrect according to Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So Narayana, coming back to Narayana Parayana, dependence on the Supreme Lord. So what does it mean? So I'm saying, oh, all the results that are being produced is only because of you. And then the abilities that I have, the intelligence that I have, the strength that I have, the resources that I have, all that also is coming from you. That's why a devotee normally prays to the Supreme Lord saying, kindly bless me with the intelligence to do the right thing in a way that is highly pleasing to you, Krishna. That is Narayana Parayana. Yeah, we are also performing the action, but the ability to perform the action, the resources to perform the action is coming from Krishna, and we are not the ones who are producing the result. The result department belongs to Krishna. So that conception is Narayana Parayana. And that principle is not only applicable for sannyasis, but for every varna and for every ashram. Even a person might be a brahmachari, person might be a grahastha, person might be a vanaprastha, person might be a sannyasi. It applies to every. That Narayana Parayana. Oh, I'm not there. That's fine, but we should keep that as the objective. Oh, from where, whatever state I am at, whatever level I am at, I should gradually start moving towards that goal of Narayana Parayana. So that is what we are trying to attempt when we are trying to practice bhakti. When we are trying to live a life of bhakti, we are trying to move towards that goal of being completely dependent only on Krishna or Rama or Narayana. So we are moving, taking baby steps towards that direction, but we need to have a goal. Without a goal, we will not move in that direction. We will have some other goal and we will move towards that direction. So it is applicable to us, the Narayana Parayana principle. And then in this sixth verse, there is a mention of time factor. So Prabhupada in his purport beautifully says there are two perspectives to look at. One will focus on death, the other will focus on living life to the fullest extent. But both are not correct conceptions. The correct conception is to look at everything through through the time factor. Time is an energy of Krishna. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Kalosmi, time I am. So in the material world, everything is influenced and the outcome is produced through the agency of time. So one has to look at the time factor. Bhishma Dev also says the same thing when he is lying on his deathbed on the Kurukshetra battlefield. The war has completed, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is feeling so much grief and guilt. Several thousands and thousands and thousands of warriors all over the world had come to fight, and everybody is dead. So they are dead, and each one of them had a family, either some old parents or a wife or children. So there, so many of them are impacted because of their death now. And all this has happened just for me to win back my rightful kingdom. It's so painful for me. And he's so morose, Yudhishthira Maharaj. And then Krishna takes him to Bhishma Dev. He says, you have to hear from Bhishma Dev and you have to get all the other instructions about Dharma from Bhishma Dev, because time for Bhishma Dev to quit his body is nearing. So he takes Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas and other sages, everybody are assembled there. Vyasadeva with his disciples, Parashuram with his disciples, and like all elevated saintly personalities, everybody is present there when the discussion between Bhishma Dev and Yudhishthira Maharaj is about to happen. And the first thing that Bhishma Dev says is, oh, how jubilant and happy I am to see you sitting back on this Hastinapura throne. Oh, I'm so happy. And then he says, you Pandavas are so virtuous. You walk the path of dharma and you don't deviate it for even a single moment. Yet, so many calamities after calamities after calamities came upon you. No ordinary soul could have gone through that and survived it. But you are very pious and virtuous and elevated personalities. And you have been always protected by the Supreme Lord Krishna personally in every calamity. What great devotees you are. And then goes on to say one important thing. You guys do not have any karma. None of the things that happened in your life is because of your past karma. Yet, all these sufferings and calamities happened one after the other in your life. So, what is the reason? He gives the answer. I can conclude it is only because of the time factor. And that time factor is completely under the control of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So, it is according to the will of Krishna this has happened. So that is the same point that is being made here. Yeah, so we can talk about the problems of birth and death and focus on the birth aspect of it or the death perspective of it. But it is advised that one observe the eternal time factor, which is the cause of the material body's appearance and disappearance. Not only the material body, everything else. It exists for a period of time. Before that, it doesn't exist. And it exists for a period of time. And after that, it doesn't exist. Time factor. So it is advised to look at it, to observe everything happening to us in this life and everything happening around us in this life through the perspective of time. So, and time is what? Time is the energy of the Supreme Lord. So it again boils to the will of the Supreme Lord. So it makes sense for us to become dependent on the Supreme Lord. Then we are protected from his energy time and also from his energy Maya. That is what Narayana Parayana means for us, householders. So even though Narada Muni is talking about sannyasis, sannyas ashram, there are principles that is applicable to us as well because we are also what because we might be in any varna, we might be in any ashram, but we are slowly expected to come to the level of bhakti and walk the path of bhakti and complete that walk and reach the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. That is the intention. So, with that intention, if we look at this Narayana Parayana Nirapekshaha, so we should not get attached and dependent on our material resources and material things. Rather, we should get attached to and be dependent on the Supreme Lord Krishna, Narayana Parayana. So I think those are the points that I wanted to highlight in these verses. Hopefully, it was helpful to you. So let's see if there is any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is
Hare
Vinod
Krishna.
Maheshwari. Thank you for explaining in Narayan Prana. This is a good concept. Yeah. Once you're explaining, I was also thinking, yeah, this all belongs to Krishna and it comes from Krishna. Many times I think person like me, we wrap up in a way that we are the doer, we are the one who is doing it, and forget that how we even got this ability to solve something or do something if Krishna has not given us. But once we live in this system, I think it comes naturally. Like I'm the one who's doing all these things. But with having this association like this, I think it's bringing back. Wait a minute, don't go too far with that one. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. So Prabhuji, how does destiny play a role in Narayana Parayana? So the surrender comes because of someone's destiny, or is it his own efforts?
Now, destiny means the situation that we find ourselves in. We did something in the past. It could be in this lifetime or it could be in the previous lifetimes. So the consequences of those actions are coming home to roost. So that is the situation that we find ourselves in. But what are we going to do in that situation? That's in our hands. That is not predestined. The situation is predestined. I am going to get this situation in my life. But how am I going to deal with it? How am I going to respond to it? That is in my hands. So I can just say, oh, I am so brilliant, I am so capable, I will do this, I will do that. But a devotee will say, even though his devotee is intelligent, devotee is very resourceful, very capable, and has all the abilities, the devotee will say, first let me pray to Lord Krishna and then proceed to deal with this situation. We see that in many instances in Srimad Bhagavatam, right in the first canto itself. And we see that in Bhagavad Gita also, with Arjuna. In Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, Arjuna is faced with a glowing effulgence coming in the sky, and immediately he is an expert warrior, and he knows that is Brahmastra. But immediately he turns to Krishna and then says, offers prayers to Krishna, offers obeisances to Krishna, and says, what should I be doing with this? So Arjuna is showing by his example what it means to be dependent on Krishna. And then after praying and after offering obeisances and taking guidance from Krishna, he takes the corrective action. Multiple places we see that when there is some calamity in some form or the other in Pandava's lives, the first thing they do is Krishna, call out to Krishna. And then comes the practical steps on how to deal with that. So similarly, to answer your question, you ask like, oh, destiny is there, but destiny is only bringing me that situation in my life. How am I going to deal with that situation? Still is up to me. I can just depend on my own material resources, or I can choose to depend on the Supreme Lord Krishna and then deal with it and in practical ways to resolve that situation. Does it answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, it does. So I can safely say that destiny got me the association of devotees, and now it's for me to develop further in Krishna consciousness.
Possibly it could be destiny, and possibly it could also be the own free will choice of the devotees to bring themselves into our lives and give mercy to us, because that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers do. Narada Muni does it. As a devotee of Krishna, he travels all over the creation to give his mercy. And followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they also do. They go and do Nakar Sankirtan. They go and knock on the doors to give Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam books to everybody. Everybody is being an opportunity to get that mercy into their lives. So, yeah, it could be just my destiny that brought me to that point, and it could also be the devotees who are out of their costless mercy roaming all over the place and coming into contact with us.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada. In terms of this discussion about destiny, so I was thinking that we are told from childhood, study well, you will get a job. So if it is destiny, then I go get job by itself.
Mhm.
So why do we need to study?
Yeah, that's a good question to ask. But the destiny is just the situation. But how are we going to deal with the situation is by our efforts. So yeah, I am supposed to be getting a $1 million job. But by just by sitting at home, it's not going to come and knock on my door, or the roof opens and the $1 million pours into my home. So we have to do our part. But the result is not our part. That is the point. So we might be predestined to get the education, but there are some practical steps that we might have to take and do that. But I study very hard, but I can only score 60% of the marks. But whereas another person can score 100% so easily. How does that happen? That is also needs to be considered and factored in.
No, it like says, Sukham Indrakam Daita, Deho Yogana Dehinam, Sarvatra Labhata Degat, Yatha Dukham Ayatnata. Dukho is also destined, Sukham is also destined.
Mhm.
So, Tatprasana Kartavo. Prahlad Maharaj saying, Tatprasana Kartavo, Yatha Ayu Baya Padav, Natata Vindate Shemal, Mukundam Charnambuja. So, Tatprasana Kartavo. So, that prayas is not necessary.
That endeavor is not necessary to be happy, and that endeavor is not necessary to suffer, but still happiness and suffering is coming. Why is that? It's coming
Yeah.
because we have accumulated from our past actions. See, destiny, we have to be very clear. It's not like when we are born, we have not done anything and we are destined to get this. No, it doesn't happen like that. We have lived many lifetimes. We have performed so many actions. We have generated so many consequences, and that is coming now. So the happiness and suffering that we are getting, we are not going and looking for it now. Our consequences of our past actions are being delivered now. So we have to keep that in mind. So, and what we are doing currently is generating the future consequences too. So we have to be very thoughtful on how we are going conducting ourselves. So I will give you a very mundane, simple example. Hopefully that helps understand that concept. There is a soccer game. Soccer game has a specific rules. This many number of players in each side should be on the soccer field, and there are certain rules and how to play the game. So there is a referee to enforce the rules of the game, and everything is followed according to the rules. A player and every player that is on the field playing can play according to the rules. There is no problem. But the moment a player is violating some rule, then the yellow card comes out first. And if it is a severity of that violation of the rule is, then a red card comes out, and then there is a ban after that. So many things happen. But if a player is going to play according to the rules, then they can continue to play. Similarly, every living being is brought into this material, has come into this material world, and there are certain material rules in play. If we follow the rules properly, we can continue to play nicely. If we violate the rules, then we are yanked out of the game. That is the difference between Devas and Asuras, as Prabhupada explains in the commentary and purports multiple places. So that needs to be kept in mind. It's not just like, okay, I don't need, oh yeah, the rules are there. It is going to come. So I will just sit and in a easy chair and wag my legs and then everything will happen automatically. No, that is not the implication.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for your such an illuminating class with this real life example of Bhisham Pitama. So I wanted to ask you, he's an elevated soul, Prabhuji, Bhisham Pitama ji. Um, he also had to suffer eventually. I mean, there's this Bhisham Stuti also for moksha. So he also committed, you know, he went against the basic rules of life. That's why perhaps he had to suffer. Correct?
No, not necessarily. He wanted to live by certain vows, no matter what happens. He knows by he was putting more emphasis on keeping his vow. I will never marry. So he knows by sticking to his vow, there are so many other things, fallouts and consequences going to happen, and he was ready. Oh, I know the consequences are going to come, and I have to face it, and I have to suffer it for that. But I gear myself up. But I do not want to give up my vow. Okay, that is one way to look at it. And the other thing is, yeah, he knows everything, what is dharma and everything, but still he is married to the throne. He has given that vow. Whoever is sitting on the throne, he will serve that person, no matter what. That was his vow. So even if it happened to be Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan and they were their evil ways, his vow kept him chained to that throne, whoever is sitting on the throne, and he had to do. And he knew clearly very well what is going to be the outcome, because he bluntly told Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra, Pandavas are virtuous, and not only that, the Supreme Lord Krishna is with them. No matter how great I am, no matter how powerful we are doomed, we are going to lose. And he accepted that result. He said, okay, with that, everything is done for me. I am fine. And my worshipable Supreme Lord will bless me because he knows I am his devotee. And the same thing happened. At the last moment, he brought, and he was right there in front of Bhishma when the Bhishma was quitting his body.
No, but if we look at the other side, if Bhishma Pitama had changed because Lord Krishna was on the other side, and yes, he took the vow, but the thing is that it didn't help him eventually.
Why it helped him? Krishna was present before him personally.
So he got moksha. That's what you're saying.
Not only moksha, he got elevated to the spiritual world. And Krishna brought everybody to be present when he knew Uttarayana Punyakala is coming. It's time for Bhishma to quit. So he wanted his devotee to be glorified. I gave an example. It comes in Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's just not Krishna being present before Bhishma. It's not just Yudhishthira before Bhishma. Parasuram with all his devotees. Vasishta with his disciples, Vyasa with his disciples, and so many other people, all elevated saintly personalities were standing there. And Bhishma Dev is talking, answering all about Dharma. And none of them said, hey, this person is not qualified to speak. Nobody said that. And they did not say, oh, this person is just talking whatever he, no, this is incorrect, this is not bona fide. No, everybody present there accepted what Bhishma was saying is 100% bona fide and correct. And Acharyas, including Prabhupada, says Krishna wanted his devotee Bhishma to be glorified. He wanted to put the spotlight on Bhishma and say, look how great my devotee is. My devotees are like this.
Yeah.
And then what? Looking at the personal divine form of Krishna, Bhishma quits the body.
Mhm. So that way, even Ravan, Lakshman, Lord Rama told Lakshmanji to go to Ravan and take life sermons from him before he leaves the body, right? The same thing. And he must have also got moksha, obviously.
No, he got, see, it more, we are just treating it like a vending machine. Oh, if I put a coin in the vending machine and select my item, the vending machine will dispense that item and I am happy. That is not the way it works. Yeah, there are process, there are steps, but the important factor that we are missing all the time is the Supreme Lord and what he wants to decide. It is, he has unlimited free will. He can choose and decide in whatever way we want. We can say, oh, I did step one, step two, step three, step four. Give me my result. Krishna will say, no, I will not give you at this time. He has that prerogative to say that and do that. And he can even come and say, you did not do all these steps, but I will still come and give you the result. He still can override everything.
Yeah.
So the same thing happens here too. So Krishna will decide, oh, Bhishma, I will give all these things. To Ravan, I will just wipe away all his sinful consequences, but he might have to take birth again in this material world. And to Putana, he'll say, oh, he killed so many other demons and demonesses in Vrindavan. But Putana, he said, okay, I will take you and keep you as my nursing mother in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. Why? Because even as Putana, she came and offered her breast milk to him, and Krishna says, I will accept that service. Even though you came to kill me and you did so many other unmentionable activities, you offered your breast milk to me, so you became my mother. I he just not kill Putana and say, oh, your sinful reactions are done, take birth again in this material world. He decided, I will take you and keep you as my nursing mother in the spiritual world. That is Krishna's right. The Supreme Lord has the right to do whatever he wants. So we should accommodate for that factor also.
Right, Prabhuji.
Otherwise, we are thinking, oh, I did step one, step two, step three, where is my result?
Yeah. So even though Bhishma Pitama did the work by keeping quiet during Draupadi's Vastraharan was the worst thing. I think out of all the things, that was the thing.
Yeah, even if you are somebody elevated like Bhishma, if a lady is undergoing something like that and you keep quiet, you are doomed. So Bhishma is an example for that. And
But
Bhishma knows.
yet the Lord condoned him.
No, he got killed. And he was lying there on the battlefield for all these days with all those arrows sticking in him. All those things happened. But Bhishma knew that is going to be the consequence for not opposing Duryodhan during that time.
But Prabhuji, Duryodhan got moksha.
No, it doesn't say moksha. Mahabharat says he was in the heavenly planets only.
Yeah. But he didn't get the kind of punishment that he should have got. You know?
That we can say that. But the ultimate judge is who?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah.
And Krishna says, okay, Krishna is so. Otherwise, we make God to be a very severe, punishing personality. He can punish severely in some instances to set an example, but generally he is very kind and compassionate. He is trying to uplift every living being, each one of us, from whatever situation we are in. From that situation, he wants to uplift even one step, one level up, or even more. So everybody who fought in the battlefield Kurukshetra and died in the presence of Krishna, all their sinful reactions were wiped clean.
Right.
That is the compassion and mercy. So he says, okay, start afresh. He is uplifting them to that level and say, okay, I have cleaned your slate and start afresh. That to get that opportunity is the biggest blessing.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So when we look at it from that, then we say, oh, how merciful and kind and compassionate and loving Krishna is. Because we all make mistakes. And for every mistake, when we are getting punished, it doesn't look nice. The experience is not pleasurable.
Yes, Prabhuji.
But when somebody comes and forgives us for the mistakes we have done, we feel so joyful. It's even greater than pleasure.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So that's what Krishna does, and that's what Krishna's devotees do. They are so forgiving.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you are on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Prabhuji, my question is, we need to be fully dependent on the Lord. And of course, Arjuna had the Lord right next to him. And we have Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra to follow. But sometimes we have to make decisions, and there is not the same opinion, even if we ask some of our sadhu friends or shiksha gurus. If there is not a consensus, then we have to make a decision. So how do we know if that is what Krishna wants? Hare Krishna.
Okay. You said Arjuna had Krishna, and then you immediately said we have Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. We also have Krishna. Paramatma is there with us. Every single moment, Paramatma is there with us. So when we go to seek guidance, because we are struggling to make a decision, we do not know what is the right thing to do. We need some guidance. So we go to our mentors, Siksha Guru, and then we say, okay, this is the situation, and they give something, but we still are not convinced, or we still feel hesitant. Oh, am I capable of doing this, or am I capable of following this solution? We have some hesitation in us. But the good thing about that is it's not only the sadhu, right? It also, there is a guru factor there, and there is also the shastra factor there, and on top of all that is the paramatma factor. And when we are sincerely praying, are in a sincerely prayerful mode, and they say, oh, I have this situation and I have this guidance, but I still do not know how to do it. So pick up a Bhagavad Gita, any page, any verse, read, and then be in that prayerful mode. And then even offer a prayer to your Guru, and you prayer to Krishna and say, I'm still confused. I do not see a way out of this. Yeah, guidance has been given, but I still do not feel competent enough to walk that path or implement that guidance. Please give me clarity. Arjuna did that. All through chapter 1, it is Arjuna venting. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, I am bewildered, oh, I am confused. And finally, what did he do? Beginning of chapter 2, he finally said, I surrender to you, Krishna. You become my teacher. let me become your student. You instruct me, you guide me. So when we do that to Krishna, only for this instance, our surrender is not like permanent, eternal yet. We are for this situation, so I surrender to you. Please guide me. Then the guidance comes, and whatever guidance has been given becomes clearer, and then we clearly know whether we should be doing according to that guidance we are given, or we have to like adjust it a little bit, and then we can go back, because they have given some inputs and guidance. Then we can go back and say, I carefully considered your thing, and then I also did some prayer and contemplation, and then this is what I am coming up with. Is then we can have that further discussion with them. That is respectful. Because they have given and then they said something and we have discarded it and we did something else, it doesn't look nice. But we go back to them and say, hey, I carefully considered it. The same thing happens with Dhruva Maharaj, right? Narada Muni hears about this small boy who wants to meet Narayan, and he has walked out of the palace and he has gone into the forest. A small boy. Even adults, grown up adults, hesitate or fearful to do that, and he wants to come and see him. So he tries to dissuade Dhruva. Oh, it's not a safe place for you. Go back. And then when you're grown up, you can come back. Dhruva Maharaj says, all you have said is valid and correct, but I am not in a position to accept that and follow it. If you can help me to see Narayan and what I should be doing to see Narayan, please help me. Otherwise, leave me alone. That's what Dhruva Maharaj says, but in a very respectful way. It's not like disrespectful. He says respectfully, if you can help me in some way, please help me. But don't try to dissuade me. So when he knew, when Narada saw that determination of Dhruva, he said, okay, let me give you all the steps and process that you can do to see Narayan. 6 months, a 4-year-old boy is seeing Narayan because of that. The lesson that we can learn is, there are sometimes nobody like Narada Muni is coming and giving inputs and guidance, and Dhruva Maharaj is respectfully saying, no, I cannot do this in my current situation. I want this, I want to get that. Please help me if you can. Very respectfully. So same thing, and we don't need to be like Dhruva, but we are going and asking our Siksha Guru or even our Diksha Guru or other elevated sadhus, please give me some inputs. Then we have to consider it carefully, thoughtfully, and then say, can I do this? Given my thing, my nature and everything, can I do this? And we can go and honestly say, thanks for your guidance, but I am not able to, or I am not in a position to do it. Is there something else that I can do? It's not like the guidance has been given and then we are like a bow out of a arrow out of a bow, and then we are just go and get it done. There are so many other alternatives there. We can consider that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. Thank you so much for this nectar class and explaining so nicely these all verses with Narayana Parayana word. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And thank you for your time. And I happily would like to announce that Prabhuji has kindly accepted our request to give his time more on our call. So maybe once or twice a month. So let's chant welcome Prabhuji for our regular speaker. As our regular speaker, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hari Krishna.
So let's pay obeisance to all the Vaishnavas.
वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव
की जय।
जय।
राधा ठाकुर की जय। शिल प्रभुपाद
श्रील
की जय।
प्रभुपाद
ग्रंथ राष्ट्र भागवतम की जय।
जय
रघुनंदन प्रभु की जय।
जय
जय।
थैंक यू प्रभु हरे हरे
Jai.
कृष्ण
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
राधे
Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
हरि बोल।
Hari Bol.